Hello. Welcome to our monitoring program call for the 21st of April, 2022, pre-recorded live for your training and listening pleasure. Let us move on. We're still discussing the study management week 16, but we are switching and we're going to talk about source document verification. Okay, how do we ensure that we apply data integrity to what we do? And this is part one of it today. Then we're going to talk about some other success essentials that entail the steps to awareness. How do you become aware of who you are, and how do you become aware of your authentic self? So let's move forward. So source document verification is a verification of the conformity of the data presented in case report forms with source data. And this is conducted to ensure that the data collected is reliable and can allow reconstruction and evaluation of the trial, and therefore fulfills ICH E6's requirements of accuracy and completeness. This is important. So it's not just that we're making sure that the data that is being captured in these source documents or source worksheets, and also that we can actually, if we audit things, we can kind of see a pattern, we can see a story. Storytelling is so important these days. They talk about it everywhere, and it applies to everything that you do. If I evaluate this data, is there a consistent story that is actually going on, or there are pieces missing and I can't really put everything together? And so the CRA role, or any monitoring role, is that, so you want to make sure that you understand what the completion guidelines are per your study. And this is typically created by the data management group. They will have, it's the Bible for how the data will be captured. Okay, so you want to pay attention to that. And then you also want to make sure that, you have access to all the databases, because the source documents are verified against this data. Okay, so it's source document verification. You have to have the full picture. So you need to have access to all the different systems and databases where you have to compare where that data is coming from and being captured. You have to make sure that is actually accurate. So it's like you're completing a puzzle, right? You're paying attention to details, you make no assumptions, and you're tying up all the loose ends. And you want to make sure that, if you're monitoring or you're doing centralized monitoring or remote monitoring, you really want to make sure that you resolve all action items on data discrepancies as close to the visit as possible. Because the further out you go, it doesn't matter how amazing your notes are, there's a tendency for us to forget, because, human beings were just incredible. There are constantly new things happening and we forget. So it's a short one, but I am going to share with you some source worksheets from the Transcelerate website. It just shows you the types of source documents that are being used in clinical trials. If you already know this, that's fine, but there are many on here who are not aware of it. So let me do a new share, and I will share my desktop. Fantastic. So here we are, okay? And we are going to go into, I want to start with the informed consent source document so that you guys can see that. That's the first thing I want to start with, because it's a really good one. And it opened up. Okay, there we are. Fantastic. I'm going to have to go back into this again and hit resume share. And I'm going to have to do a new share, and I'm going to have to share the Word document itself because Zoom is tripping on me. Okay, so a source document for the informed consent is really important, and it will typically look, they're capturing the subject's initials, when the informed consent was obtained, whether the patient has that adequate time. So you administer informed consent to the patient. And if you go to the Transcelerate website, I highly recommend, there are informed consents on there. It's the Institute of Clinical and Translational Research. There are quite a few samples on there. and they tend to be the standard for a lot of things. So the thing that I want you to get from this is that this is capturing processes that have already happened. Okay, so I've consented the patient. I give them, I told them gave them the informed consent, told them what the project is about, what exactly is going on. And now I'm capturing it here. Okay, and then I take this information and I enter it in some database. I capture the document that was signed, the version date. So you would look at the informed consent and verify to make sure that what is captured on here, because that's also going to go into other systems, is accurate. So that's really what you're doing. Your source document verifying just means that you're looking at what has been captured and comparing it to the actual processes, the original documents. Okay, and then making sure that this is accurate, because this is what is going to go into the electronic data capture, or the ECRF, electronic case report form, or the CRF, or the paper case report form. So that's just what you want to pay attention to. And informed consent is really, really huge. I mean, there are always a lot of findings around it. So you want to pay attention to that. And then let's go to our next document, which is really important. And this is going to be the inclusion and exclusion document. Okay, so inclusion and exclusion document, for some reason, let's do, where is the inclusion and exclusion document? So let me close out the informed consent, and let's close out all of that. And I'm going to start a new share because I have too many things open. Go back to Finder. Inclusion and exclusion. Apologies, technical issues. I'll just share my whole desktop, and I'm going to get out of here, and let's go into Finder. Okay, here we are. This will be better. I think so. This is a better way of doing it. So here we are. Inclusion and exclusion, eligibility. This is another type of source document that is used. Okay, did the patient meet the inclusion? Did they meet the exclusion? That's this, and these are mostly screening source documents that I'm showing you guys. Then, of course, if the medical history is captured, this is another document capturing the medical history, all samples. So I'm just showing this so that you're familiar with it. Physical exam also, it's pretty much the same thing. And this is not, this is going to be based on your protocol. Okay. And in some cases, you might be doing one for your clinical research sites, but good clinical research sites will create their own source documents. That's really how it is. And this is one for capturing vital signs. So this is just basic procedures across clinical trials, but I think that you guys get the idea. So the point that I want to make is that you are basically sharing this information, okay? You're sharing this information with the clinical research, not sharing this information, you're source verifying it. Okay, your source verifying this information, looking at the data, okay, and you're comparing it with all the other documents. So if you look at vital signs and they're captured, that's typically vital signs, that will be the first place where they're captured. Now, an ECG, there might be a printout from the ECG machine. So the ECG printout, that's what you're going to use to source verify the document that you're looking at. So you always go back to the first point on which the data was captured. If the source document is the second point, then you have to go back to the first point and verify it. Labs, I mean, everything, biospecimens, all of it, you have to keep verifying. And that's the same thing that is done in-house. Whether it's remote monitoring, if the site is The clinical research site is going to upload all their documents to a specific place. Then you're going to have to use that to verify, or you're doing central monitoring, where you're looking at the data, but also looking at different databases as well, like a snapshot of different databases, or maybe you want to go into the lab database and make sure that the values that are entered are actually accurate per the CRFs. So yeah, so those are that's what you want to pay attention to. It's just you're basically comparing to make sure the data is accurate, and that if there are any findings, you want to make sure that you actually follow up on that. Okay, I hope that makes sense. It's nothing difficult. It's just basically the goal of clinical trials is we're going to submit right to the regulatory bodies and say, you know what, we have run this clinical trial. This is the data that we have. We think it's accurate. So can you take a look at it and see if it is efficacious and safe and efficacious, and that we can bring it on the market. But these are the steps that we take to ensure that the data is accurate. Now, let us move on and talk about our success essentials for week 16. So the steps to awareness, and I pulled this from many of the things that I've been studying. This one really came from the Yoga Sutras. And I was thinking that how do we become aware of ourselves? But let me first define what awareness is. For me, awareness is paying attention to every moment in my life and understanding who I am. That I'm not just, a thing of bag and bones living on this planet, that there is so much more to me, and that there is a tangible part to me, which I can touch, feel, smell, taste, and all of that. But there's a non-tangible focus. And who is the person who's aware? I'll pause. Just think about this. When we say the steps to awareness, who is becoming aware? Okay. Who is becoming aware? It's not you, the physical self. It's your soul, that non-tangible self that is becoming aware. That's who's really becoming aware. Your physical self is becoming aware of that non-tangible self. That's the ultimate. And so we start with faith that there is something more to us. Because if I'm living on this planet and I just think that this is it, I'm just going to kill myself, because my goodness, get up every day and do what? Even if you have goals and all the things that you want to accomplish, and then what comes after that? So you want to be in a place where you have faith that there is something more to you. And then once you have that faith, what do you get now? Vigor. There is a vigor that comes from within you, that you go through your days with well-being and strength, because you know that there is more to you, and that whatever is happening on this planet before you, while it is important, there is something more. There is the work behind the work, right? There is a deeper unfolding. And so that gives you vigor, that gives you vitality. There's a strength that comes within you. Then, of course, memory. This one is interesting because I said memory is like a receptacle. I mean, basically, we have past experiences and then it gets stored. Just imagine if you walked around in life and every day you lived it like we don't remember the next day, like Groundhog Day. There's a movie called Groundhog Day where this person gets up and every day is Groundhog Day here in the US. The ushering in of spring. We won't go into too much details, but the concept is that they're wiped clean every day that they get up. So memory is interesting because we can use it for good and we can use it for challenging situations. If every situation that happens in my life, I see it through the filter of a past memory where I was struggling, I'm never going to move forward. But if I use that memory and I rephrase it, I think of something that happened in my life and I tell a new story about it. Maybe I went through a very difficult challenge and I didn't know I was going to bounce back, but then I'm like, oh my God, I did. I'm here. So I bounce back. I tell a different story. I start thinking, I wonder what that story taught me. I wonder what things that I actually learned from it. And now memory then serves me. Okay. And memory is really an illusion. I mean, really, again, if you have no memory, every day you get up as a new person, you don't remember what happened the day before. How will you live your life? But memory serves us because memory is here for continuity. That's really it. It's here for continuity. I remember where I live. I remember what I was doing yesterday and I can keep going today, right? Otherwise, but if you're living like people living in areas where they don't need, there are people sometimes who don't need memory. They're living in a place where memory is not required because every day is a new day and they don't have to remember everything to survive, So, yeah. So anyway, that's that. The next thing I wanted to talk about is samadhi and absorption. I love it because in the Yoga Sutras, the last limb is samadhi. And it's so the three last limbs are dharana, concentration, dhyana, meditation, and samadhi then happens as a result of concentrating, getting into meditation, and then I get into this full oneness of who I am. And this is a really important concept because it can apply to anything. When you engage, when you're involved with life, it becomes just a samadhi experience because you're not tense. Have you had those days when you're just in the flow? You're like, wow, today just went so well, just flowing and flowing and flowing, and it was so wonderful. That's a form of samadhi. The last thing is discernment, judgment. I mean, you got to be able to know what a situation is and what exactly is actually going on. And so it is knowing what is happening, right? What is happening in your life, judging. When I say judging, not in a negative way, seeing how situations have affected your life and how you can, pivot. Okay. So these are the steps of awareness I find, just practicing these ideas. And I always say we don't practice things for an outcome. We practice them and then we see what's going to happen. When I started meditating, it's been a very long time. I remember people used to say, so you get to the point where you just feel this oneness, and it did not occur to me, but I most certainly felt it now. There are times in meditation where I get into this samadhi state where I can't feel my toes, I can't feel my hands, there was no thought, and it's just blank. And sometimes my head might move a little bit because there is energy that is moving, right? Get to the state of just, and then of course, the ultimate discernment in that moment is that I'm not a physical being. I mean, I don't know what I am because it's confusing. You're not smelling, you're not seeing, you're not touching. What are you? They actually have sensory blocking chambers where you go in, you can't smell, see, taste, and people have the most amazing experiences. They feel this oneness because you don't know, you can smell, what are you without your senses? Imagine you couldn't see, smell, taste, touch, none of it. You had no senses whatsoever, and you were just in that state. So yeah, that's it. That is the ultimate state. And we didn't come here to be in that state all the time. We came here to go into that state and then develop the faith, the vigor, use our memories for wonderful things, get into that state, and then come from a place of discernment, right? Because once we've been in that state, the way that we see the world, our discernment and judgments of the world are completely different. Okay. Thank you guys so much for listening. And this has been wonderful. I hope you understand what source document verification is. Very simple. It's just the process of verifying that the data is accurate, right? The data that is captured is accurate, and we go to the source. And then, of course, the steps to awareness. We want to have faith, develop vigor and vitality, use your memory, rephrase, think of the things that have happened, and write a new story about them. Allow yourself to go into that state of just flow. And then from then, look at the world and your life and judge it in a completely different way. Okay, I will see you next week. Bye.